Well, good morning, everybody. This is the 27th of June, and we welcome you to, or as Joe says, from Zoom Productions, Oakhurst, California, for the PLC Sunday morning service. We want to welcome all our visitors, and we have a visitor today from Sandy. You want to introduce Gail? You want to unmute yourself, sweetie?
After I ask everybody to unmute, I forget. So anyway, I'd like to welcome Gail Childers. She went with us to PLC when it was in Fresno years and years and years ago, and she's joining us today. So if everybody just kind of wave at Gail and tell her hello. There we go.
Hello, Gail.
We want to welcome any other guests we have and everybody that's come back. And we're a community here. We're a heart-centered community. And I just love being here with family and friends. I always feel so welcomed. It's like coming home. Today is the 27th of June. It's still the year of manifesting, and all of us are manifesting in our own way, our thoughts, our things. And our themes for today are the law of mind, is the law of perfect balance, is the medium of all action. And I want to let you know that in our way of manifesting, we manifested the perfect musician just for you today, all the way from the British Isles, is Cedar Dobson. And as she leads us into meditation, I want to ask everybody just to close your eyes. Take a deep breath, settle back down. Feel that sense of excitement, but let it go down into your legs, into the earth. She plays for us some glorious music to lead us away into the realms of God's source within. as music is the word, and the word is music, and vibration and sound, and consciousness aligns with that. And as we take that music into our heart and into our lives, and know that with this sound and the music that Cedar brought to us so lovingly today, that this love flies into all areas of our life and brings total harmony. And we speak our word for harmony now, knowing that as this harmony flies out on the wings of song to all areas of our life, to all areas of our relationships, all areas of our business and our home, that we can truly know that the notes of the song are in perfect divine order in each area of the symphony of our life, in the song of our life, that we sing into manifestation each moment of each day, into the now moment, right now, right here. And we let it be so. And so it is. Now we ask Joe for our spiritual thought for today.
Good morning. Thank you, Missy. I just wanted to give you guys my take on the law of mind and action. My active conscious thoughts about it, because we have so many unconscious thoughts going on in a day, as I've discovered. It is said that we have anywhere from 30 to 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. No wonder my head feels full sometimes when I'm walking around during the day. And the scientists tell us that only about 5% of the time are we really having conscious thoughts towards something. So we really are kind of walking around on autopilot for the most part of the day. A perfect example of that for me is that when I'm getting ready to go to the store to do some shopping, I can do all that stuff on autopilot. I don't have to consciously think about it. I know I need to get this, this, and this and go. And I back out of the garage and take off down the main road. And every time I get halfway down to the main road, and I have to ask myself, did I close the bay door to the garage? And I tell myself, I know I did. I don't have to worry about it. Just you do it unconsciously all the time. And I still turn around and go back and look. And each and every time it's been closed. So we have a lot of these unconscious things that we do, that we just automatically do without having to put a lot of train of thought into it. What do we tend to put our conscious thoughts to? Prayer is for sure. Meditation requires our conscious thoughts, yes. We become very conscious when we're doing something new, because when it's something new, we have to put thought to that. If it's something we've done before, if I rode a bike 100 years ago, I can still get on the bike and ride it today without any real thought about it, because we have that experience. We know that God is infinite intelligence. So then, of course, are we. Ernest Holmes said, and I'll read this. Ernest Holmes said, the law of mind in action is that the whole universe is alive with cosmic intelligence. It is infinite creative mind at work. When God placed man on this planet, we started to realize as a person that I think, and therefore, if I think, therefore I am. And man started to fumble and move himself around on this planet, trying to figure out who and what he was. So the mind, whether universal or individual, has but one way to act. At the beginning of any series, it must act by thought. As I said, first there was God and then there was man. And since God is made from intelligence, from God, we also have this intelligence in our minds, because there's only one mind. There's God's mind and my mind, God's mind and yours. That's all there is. So man was placed here on this planet with free will to discover and develop After all, God gave us everything we would ever need on this earth planet. Everything we need is already here. This is part of what we teach, is science of mind, new thought. We don't need to look beyond where we are because everything is already here. We humans had to work in conscious union with life on this living planet so that we could function and elope together in everything that we do. Man discovered he has tons of thoughts, which mean he is able to choose from these thoughts to make conscious decisions as to what man wanted to do next. And we have this huge memory bank, don't we? It's huge. It collapses and stores all of our thoughts and experiences. Because if I had experience of doing something 20 years ago, and I'm going to do it again today, I can look back in those memory banks and go, oh yes, I remember how to do this. It's a fabulous thing. God didn't miss a thing, did he? He didn't miss a thing. He gave us everything we need. Science of mind, then, is the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought. Law is mind in action. We know there is one infinite life acting through life, through law, and this law is pure intelligence. This we know. Our mind is always active, ever present, thinking all the time. For years, I could not sleep well at night. I had a hard time falling asleep because my mind was active with everything I've been doing that day or perhaps the day before, or I'm thinking about what I've got to do the next day. And I just couldn't shut down. And Luana would come to bed and I'd watch her fall asleep in 30 seconds. I'm like, how does she do that? So I consciously decided to focus my busy mind on one positive thing each night. And that positive thing was God. So I decided to meditate with God, and I was giving thanks for my connection with God and for being healthy and having a home to take care of my family, and just blessing everything that I do have, not versus what I don't have. And I would fall asleep so easily. And this has become my mantra. I do this all the time now. I go to bed thinking about God. I wake up saying good morning to God, and it just relaxes the mind. So if there's any of you out there, I doubt there is, but if any of you out there who have a hard time falling asleep, try that. It will shut your busy mind down so you can sleep. We know that it's the law of belief. As we believe, so shall we receive. If our minds are going to be busy, let's keep them busy with positive thoughts, yes? Wherever you are, be the soul of that place at that very moment, so we don't miss a moment. And so it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's Luana must be related to my husband because my husband was able to fall asleep like that. And I found that the way I fall asleep is the same thing, thinking of God, you know, doing prayer work and thinking God is and blessing people. And so a lot of times that's when I do treatment work, and it works like a charm. When you're immersed in the God energy, it's so much easier to fall asleep. And I wonder sometimes if that's why we do prayers before we go to sleep. You know, we're taught. And that's the consciousness that we go out on. So thank you for, that's such a lovely reminder. And now for Cedar. Cedar, please bring us some more of your wonderful music from the UK.
And this is Mark Dunn. Forgot to introduce him earlier. And he's from Dublin. And so we're going to play Nocturne #1 for you. And I hope you enjoy. Not too fast.
Thank you so much. You know, that was, Mark, your plane, it was like a river that Sears flute then was like the boat that flowed on that river. It was such a nice partnership that that uh, there wasn't any separation. It was just a nice flowing song. Thank you so much for you both being here today. Thank you. And now for our speaker for the day, the Reverend Jenny Evans. Jenny.
Good morning. Oh, I'm sorry. I was expecting hellos and all of a sudden I realized everybody's on mute.
Hello, hello, Jenny. Thank you for being here from wonderful Tennessee.
I know. You know, this morning I went to a vegan and vegetarian like trade show down in Knoxville, and I met this young woman that I've met recently. We went together, and it was so cute because there was about 15 stalls, and we were talking about the difference in Knoxville as compared to what it was like when she first got here. And I said, you know, if this was in Fresno or Los Angeles or San Francisco, this place would be completely maxed out. There'd be 70,000 people in here. And there was just this tiny, tiny little group. And it was, she said, it's so wonderful to see the changes. And I said, you know, I think spirit is sneaky that way. It's always working to bring new ways of thinking and new perspectives and, you know, a new dialogue into a group of us, to all of us, because we're all one, but in that process of understanding ourselves and divinity. But I saw a billboard this morning that showed part of Jesus. It didn't show his head, but it showed his hands and his torso, and it said Jesus heals broken hearts. And I just, every time I see one of, because I obviously am in Christian country, and it just, I just think about the difference in thinking about how, what that would mean to, you know, say a friend that's a Southern Baptist is compared to the way my perspective of it, or the way that we think. And I had to agree with the billboard, even though I could see the perspective perhaps on someone else who thinks in terms of separateness, that their heart needs to be healed, when actually it's a shift in consciousness, as we know. But the other day I was talking with Sandy on the phone, and sometimes I have to admit, honestly, that when I see her topics, I go into resistance about them, and it really makes me mad at first because I don't like them. And so, and I choose lots of weird adjectives to be in resistance to the topics themselves. And the one that came up for me this time was obscure. Well, it really is obscure to me, which that means is I have my work to do to research the meanings of the topics in order to be able to construct a talk for you to understand what I need to say. So I hope you bear with me, but I need it. It struck me funny. The thing is that what I've discovered about that is if I'm in resistance to topics, there's always this wonderful little ripple, this cool, fresh water going through that says, Jenny, there's just something here for you. And they always say, we teach what we need to learn. And so I have discovered that if I will put my opinions and my negative crap and my ignorance out of the way, there will be a juicy nugget under there that is just for me to help me understand the law, the science of mind, and the law of mind and how that works. And this has been truly an epiphany. So I thank you, Sandy, for putting me to task in terms of some of these topics that she gives us. And so, as Joe said, the topics this month is the law of mind, is the law of perfect balance, is the medium of all action. And I want to, you'll understand as I go, but I just need to set this up, that Ernest Holmes tells us that there is just mind in which we live, move, and have our being, and that the mind is conscious and unconscious, and that conscious mind and spirit is either in God or man, because there's only God, there's only mind, and we're within it. And so we're all encapsulated in that. And I've really given that a lot of thought as I've been preparing for this talk. But he goes on to say, as Joe suggested, that we're surrounded by a subjective intelligence which receives our thought and acts on it. Years ago, even though I was raised a Christian Scientist and as a small child, I still got the concept somehow that, and perhaps that was because of Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, or the things that I heard from other friends in school or other churches we went to visit, that God was a fatherly figure that sat up in the clouds, and we needed Jesus to save us from our sins or mistakes in order to get us to heaven. Well, today that really is true to some degree, but but I'm coming from another galaxy in terms of what that looks like these days. It's not a fatherly figure sitting up in the clouds, surely. But because I've studied what I have, and with all of you, those of us who have studied together, we have come to understand that heaven is within us, as Jesus told us in the Bible thousands of years ago. And by practicing oneness and compassion, because I try to take the nuggets of truth from all of the religions and have customized my own belief system with the things that seem consistent with our belief structure, I'm much more comfortable with owning my divinity these days, as opposed to thinking that it's still outside of me. And with my divine sonship, I think that it gives me just a smidgen of more understanding every day. When I look out there, I meet an animal, or in fact, yesterday I had a really interesting experience where I met this horse. My nephew and his family were out doing this vaulting, and we went out to watch their show. And this horse walked up to me and just held my gaze for maybe even a minute. And I was shocked by it because it was just not something I've ever had happen. And I realized that I think that that was a spiritual exchange between spiritual beings. I saw the spirit in that horse, and I'm pretty sure she saw who I was too. So I'm going to be thinking about that for a while, because that came as a surprise and a beautiful experience. But recently I went to see a new acupuncturist here in Knoxville. He's a Jew from New York, absolutely brilliant, probably genius level intelligence. And he grew up in an agnostic family, but his family turned against God when he was a young child and became agnostic because of the Holocaust. And he didn't tell me that his family had been, or relatives of his had been caught up in that nightmare. But what it did, which I think is just beautifully done, how spirit puts us where we need to be for the learning and the openings that we need for our evolution. But because of the openings in the fact that his parents weren't hardcore in the Jewish religion, it opened him to study the spiritual practices of yoga, and then which led him ultimately into Tibetan Buddhism. And the reason I share this is because as he spoke with me for about 2 hours, and one of the questions that he asked me was what God meant to me. And so when I said God was love and God is good, he said, well, the Tibetans think of all that is as neutral. And I suggested that it's neither good nor bad, it's both. And so I suggested that perhaps what metaphor came to mind in his description of that was that it was sort of like a block of clay. And so as a sculptor, as a co-creator with all that is, I can take my thoughts, and it says that the law of mind will take your thoughts and whatever they are, good or bad, and they transform them into life experience or manifestation. And so, but the clay has to respond by whatever it is that we put into it, and it doesn't judge whether it's good or bad. So, and it makes manifest what we put into it. And that really helped me to picture myself in it was just a new way of thinking about where I am in all that is, and how my thoughts actually perpetuate my life experience. And it gave me something tangible and earthy to be able to work with, because I have worked with clay and I know how I can mold clay into just about anything that you can imagine. And so it gave me something a little bit more concrete to help me understand how my thoughts go into this clay, which doesn't judge and returns it back to me, because the law is a law of mirroring as well. And of course, as in my studies with animals, animals also mirror back to us things that we need to know about ourselves. As the Course in Miracles told us while I studied and was in study groups with the Course, that people come into our lives, and now I'm going to add animals and everything else to help bring our attention to perhaps who we are, how we're doing, and where are those areas in our lives that still need a little bit of insight and work and healing, because that's what we're ultimately doing, is coming into self-realization about where we fit in this giant blob of clay, if you will, forgive the pun. So the thing that's interesting is that Ernest Holmes says that we're surrounded by subjective intelligence, which receives our thoughts and acts on it. That's the law. But he goes on to say, and he, like Prasad said, like the Buddhist, the Tibetan Buddhists say, that it's neither good nor bad. It just is. And that we consciously or unconsciously use it. The thing that I found fascinating was that the Course in Miracles suggests that the law will take our thoughts just as they are and not judge them for either good or bad. But what we can do is, we can use the law inappropriately. And I just love that. See, for me, suffering and having uncomfortable experiences in my life has been a great motivator to find out what was in me that needed healing, so that I wouldn't necessarily have to experience these very painful experiences, such as you do when you get your heart broken, or things happen in life that are very uncomfortable. And so I'm basically, the suffering aspect of it has spurred me to continue to seek what it is. Where can I find this kingdom of heaven that Jesus talked about within me? And one of the things that I thought was very interesting, I had not seen this before in the Science of Mind textbook, but Eckhart Tolle, of course, said that suffering is only necessary until we realize it never was. And I've been thinking about that a number of years. But then I found it in the Science of Mind textbook. Ernest Holmes said the same thing. The suffering may be salutary in that it leads us to a place where we learn it is unnecessary. And he said, it is solace to the mind that we come to understand that all limitation from the standpoint of divinity within us is unnecessary. And I just was thrilled to see that come by, because it gives me such, that's light at the end of the tunnel. If I'm all caught up in my self-pity about what's happening to me and I don't like it and I'm throwing a temper tantrum, again, if I will, like Missy and Joe said, if I will focus on what I'm grateful for and know that the material manifestations that other people are having experience in their lives, none of that is ultimately going to bring them happiness, not the kind I'm talking about, the kind of joy that you feel by, for example, this morning my sisters put our garden on our back deck back here. And I posted something I saw on Facebook last week where it showed this little bee had been busy pollinating and going from flower bud to flower bud, and got tired. And someone had the incredible opportunity to take a picture of this little pollen laden bee that had passed out in this little flower, and he was taking a nap. And so this morning it brought back to mind, because when I was out looking at the cucumbers that are getting ready out there, I saw this little bee that was going into the squash plants, just completely dotted with this beautiful golden pollen that he's going to take to another bloom. And that started me thinking about God and the intelligence or the omnipresence that for God to develop flowers that were intelligent enough to know what they needed to do in order to attract the bee to come and collect the pollen and yada, 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 So I was totally charmed by seeing that little bee this morning, and it reminding me of all that is, and the beauty and the grace that surrounds us, that my stinking thinking, as Al and I used to call it, would get me caught up in something I just really I don't to this day like to think about. So our new thought teachers and masters of the East taught us that we cannot be separated from mind, because that's all there is. But we do have erroneous thinking, and we can project that into our clay or the law of mind, and it has no recourse but to manifest that form. Because it's a law of reflection. The law is the law of reflection, and life is a mirror, and it reflects back to us the images, the areas in our lives that we need in order to continue to move toward that place of self-realization and discovering the kingdom of heaven within us. And I thought it was very, very interesting about this concept that I hadn't actually, I read The Science of Mind many, many years ago from front to back, and I have dug around in it since then. However, I don't know if you all agree, but I'll open that book and something will jump out at me and I'll have an epiphany. And it was like I never saw it before, but it comes with something new, a new understanding, because of where I'm at in my spiritual journey at the moment. So Ernest Holmes goes on to say that not a child of God can lose the ability of manifesting because of what we are, but we can use it inappropriately by projecting. And the inappropriate use of projection occurs when we believe that some emptiness or lack exists in us that we can fill with our own ideas instead of the truth. And I think that is so profound for me personally, to think that's what they call it, is inappropriately projecting stuff into the clay that's going to bring it back to me, that I have control over. But the thing is that there is no lack, not really. Because again, I've forgotten, and I'm going to share a little bit more of this with you, but forgotten or didn't connect the dots in me that there was no ultimate lack. And that was the part I've struggled with in terms of treatment, because somehow I didn't connect that piece. That from now on, though, because of this these beautiful topics that Sandy has brought to us today, when I think about treating for someone's apparent lack, I'm going to know for them that there is no such thing. There is no such thing. It's only the inappropriate projection of lack that needs to be cleaned up. Everything else is in place. So the Course in Miracles goes on to say that we are extensions of God, imbued with the same loving will to create. So there is no emptiness in us. We are made in his likeness and are creative and can't lose this ability, but we can use it inappropriately. And the erroneous thinking that goes behind this, and I found these to be interesting. We believe that what God created can be changed by our own mind. We believe that what is perfect can be rendered imperfect or lacking. I'm certainly guilty of that. We believe that we can distort the creations of God, including ourselves. And we can distort the creations of God, including ourselves. And we believe that we can create ourselves, and the direction of our own creation is up to us. And those are the erroneous beliefs that struck a chord with me in terms of what stands between me and my what I want to achieve in my treatments in my own life. I've always, as a small child, went to the golden rule to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And this particular talk has really revealed itself in such a way that I've just been thrilled with the information that's come through. And so I looked up some Yogananda, because I wanted to see what he would have to say to this erroneous thinking and this projection of inappropriate thoughts into spirit for it to return to us. And he said, which is the golden rule again, he taught that every thought, feeling, or action creates a wave of energy that is destined to return to us. As we give, so shall we receive. And I think where I got turned around is that the material universe appeared so real that I had to get to the stage in my life where I had to clean that up. I had to see that that was not the total reality. And I know I've walked around and parroted some of these things, but it was sort of like a chicken sitting on her egg. You have to keep it warm. You have to keep it, from getting cold at night in order for the baby to develop and to crack open. There has to be a gestation period. In my case, perhaps some of you agree with this, but where sometimes it takes a certain pathway or event or a healing or something that helps these new epiphanies open, and all of a sudden it's like, my God, where have I been? It's so simple, but I didn't get it before. The Course in Miracles again tells us there is no problem in any situation that faith will not solve. And even Jesus remarked that if we had the faith of the seed of a mustard seed, that we could move mountains. And I'm greatly offended by that. By myself, that my faith has been so tiny that I have tripped myself up for years from erroneous thinking. So I really gravitated through the last few years have been really rough for me personally. And I really have embraced again the 12-step program quote of letting go and letting God. It got to the point where it was like I needed to have my fingers pried off the steering wheel and just allow God in its magnificence and wisdom and the law of mind to do for me what I am not able to do and don't need to worry about it. All I need to do is clean up my thinking and know there is no lack. I'm in it. I can create, and I want to be a little bit more respectful and intelligent about the thoughts that I put into that clay going forward. So Ernest Holmes goes on to say that the man whose thought is most godlike, that is the truest, the highest, the most noble, the most complete, the most powerful, will be the best healer. And I understand and support all of us in treating for one another, because sometimes we just don't have enough inner strength to support us. And it's like a boat. There's a number of us carrying a boat over a sandbar. We just need the multiple minds coming together as one in order to help us through those impasses that we find ourselves in our thinking sometimes. So limitation and poverty are not things, but they're results of a restricted ways of thinking. So in a nutshell, a law of mind is our block of clay, which we're in. It's all it is. We're in it. It lives through us. It's all around us. It's a mirror, and it's perfectly balanced as to what we put into it from our thoughts. We shape our clay, and it's up to us, and to honor and, for me, have gratitude for the results of the manifestations I've created in the past, because they're such brilliant teachers. I may not like them very much, but they still have brought me here, and I'm grateful for that. For today, because of free will, I can use those thoughts appropriately or inappropriately, and then we can get better results. So it's up to us to clean up our thinking, and with that, we will enter into the kingdom of heaven as Jesus told us, and that exists within us right here and right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I took lots of notes. Up to us to clean up our thinking. Absolutely. I think that hits the nail on the head, because no one else can do it for us. It's up to us, each of us, to take responsibility and accountability. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, now it's coming time for our offertory. I wanted to mention something about Ernest Holmes in book, The Science of Mind. It's page 440. He talks about the law of circulation. And he stated it is only when we allow the divine current to flow through us, in and out, we really express life. The law of giving and receiving is definite. Well, with that in mind, why don't you join me in blessing and doing our offertory prayer. Love flowing through me blesses and increases all that I give and all that I receive. I want to bless you all and thank you all for all that you give to PLC so that we can pay our mortgage and continue to have a building to go to that when we finally get there. But meanwhile, it keeps us in operation. And I do bless you all and thank you because what we give comes back to us in so many ways. And let's see. Next is announcements. And David wanted to, has an announcement.
Well, hello, everyone. First of all, I don't like to say announcement too much, but I want to say goodbye to all of you that I haven't spoken to. I've enjoyed my time with PLC. It's been terrific. And I really appreciate your friendship. And I'm looking forward for you when you get back to being able to see people in person. That'll be lovely. Anyway, I had a thought, and it was a substantial thought that occurred to me a few days ago. And I wrote it down because it was pretty marvelous how it all worked out. And it's very practical as far as the solution that I came about with. And that is that a few days ago, 3 days ago, I suffered a substantial loss. And I won't go into great detail, but I have a sailboat in Australia and basically it's got wrecked really bad. And I could see that I'm going to be up for at least, I don't know, 70 to 100,000 of my own money. So I got pretty concerned about that. And also US Customs pulled my container, my 40-foot container for inspection. They do that for 1 out of 50. And I got lucky. And as a result, I got a $3,000 bill from them and there was no problem, of course. And I missed the ship. So the ship goes today, actually. So I missed it. So we won't get our furniture for a month and a half after we get there. Anyway, I was pretty upset about that. And I would say I had a bad day and I was quite angry. But I sat and thought, and after raving on, I realized that my wife and I have been retired for 15 years, and we're not really any worse off than we were when we started. We've been able to live, and we're very fortunate in that regard. And also to appreciate that losses come and go, and of course, proper management contains them, and logistical thinking, of course. And problem solving, of course, we all want to try to do that. Some do it better than others. But here's the key. When something like that happens, I decided to accept what had occurred to me. Just accept it as part of life. The losses and gains are a fact of life. So acceptance is whether it's good or bad is a great idea. And you can be free then from the devastation, anger, and negative thoughts that carry on, because these things can just carry on for a long time, and you have no joy as a result. And then you think, I thought, David, you are privileged. That's the first thing. And that's not me. A lot of us are privileged. I mean, you could live in places that are devastated. You're lucky. We're all lucky. And with that comes responsibility. When you're privileged, there's responsibility to yourself and to others. And of course, the community you live in. And I just say the state of the planet. We need to get real, folks. The state of the planet is in jeopardy, and that also we need to do. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say, and I'll miss all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That was lovely. And we're going to miss you.
Thank you.
Are there any other announcements? Okay, Daniel.
Grant, who died in November 2020 from COVID, is having a memorial service today in Big Sur. So whoever's doing the prayer treatment, the practitioner, just put him in mind today. He lived a good life and exited suddenly, and that's the way things happen sometimes. That's all.
Thank you. We'll do that.
Mimi. Sandy.
Yes.
Hi, it's Patty.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to let the community know, it hasn't really been announced yet. I did talk to Angie the other day, but our dear friend Dave Dorsey from Dorsey's Hallmark passed away on Wednesday. He made a peaceful transition. So we've all been praying for him, and now if we would switch our prayers to his wife Linda. We had a nice talk on Friday, and they're doing well, but it's tough. And he was such a dear member of our community, and especially our business community. So put some little prayers in there for their family. Thank you.
We will, honey. Thank you.
Just to let you know, for those looking for last week's service, it is PLC Oakhurst on YouTube, but also we also put it on the Facebook page, Oakhurst PLC Oakhurst Facebook page every Sunday afternoon. So as soon as I upload it to YouTube, I take the link and I put it on Facebook on the PLC Oakhurst. I also put it on Melissa Higginbotham's page also. So I put it on my own page too. And so that you can find different places to do it. But it's PLC Oakhurst on YouTube and PLC Oakhurst on Facebook.
And you can find it on mine, but not as soon as the others. I get to it and share it over.
Yeah. So it is there on different places. So any other announcements? Okay, practitioner of the day is Joe Bull. And also, if you ever want to have any prayer treatment, just let Joe know and he'll put it out to the practitioners. And if there's any other issues you have during the week that you need help with, we have a heart-to-heart from PLC, and Judy DeRosa is in charge of that. Just let her know, and she has a whole team ready to help you. And did I see Daniel raise his hand again? Dan, were you raising your hand again for that you wanted to say something else?
Well, I have a little very short thing that I created. It's called Tools. Tools for the trade to help people decide if they want to be part of a group that is focused on creating some positive change. So I'd like to post that on the PLC site, and people can download that. It takes about 2 minutes to read. It's very, very short, and it's safe. It's not contaminated with anything. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please go ahead and put it up on the Facebook page, the PLC Facebook page.
You muted yourself, Dan, again. So
I don't do Facebook.
Okay, if you'll send the link to me, do you have my email address? REV Reverend Sandy West at live.com. I'll type it over here.
in the chat box.
REV Sandy West.
At live.com.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next week's speaker is Reverend Sandy West. So let's go ahead and do our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. The energy of God is me. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Sandy and Angie, would you give the closing treatment, please?
Angie, if you'll unmute and you go ahead and start, and then I'll finish it up.
As we proceed this week on this human journey, we take with us and embody the fact that we are one with this eternal presence, that the eternal presence and our nature is one and the same. We are whole, we're complete, we're in divine harmony of love. Everything we do benefits us, everything we experience benefits us. We know that we are this life form, and we accept that as our authentic self. And we know that everything and anything that we experience in this human drama, we know that we are superior to all of it, that we are the life form.
Oh, and knowing this, I know and accept the beauty and the uniqueness that each of us are, that each of us brings and shares. The world is a beautiful place with all of our diversity, our different ways of seeing things and interacting. It keeps it exciting. It keeps us challenged. It keeps us learning and evolving. I am so grateful for the time we're allowed in this world, for it truly has been a gift. And being able to see the gift that it is one of the greatest gifts I've allowed myself. And I accept that each of us is allowing that. The gift of ourselves, the gift of our world, the gift of life, the gift of love. And as we go forth this week, share that. Share your eye contact, share your smile, share your heart, share your caring. This world and each and every one of us is worth it. And I give such glorious thanks for that which is ours. And say with me, please, and so it is.
And so it is.
Oh, thank you everyone for a lovely service today. It's just been a joy. Oh, and David, vaya con Dios, huh? Safe journey.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye, everybody. Vaya con Dios.